Alright, hello, can you people hear me? Try putting the mic closer this time, because I know some people asked, said I was quiet last time. The latency is also, like the delay is also longer than last time, I believe, because my internet's not so great. Alright, let me know if you guys can hear me. And then we'll continue. Alright, cool. Alright, I don't even know how to start the stream. I guess we could go with, why I played, is it still quiet? Really? I'm talking pretty close to the microphone here. Yeah, maybe I can try, increasing gains here, hold on. How do I use OBS? Alright, I don't know if this is any better, but let me know if it's too loud or too quiet still. This is probably what we're gonna go with. Let's talk about data life. What do you want? Dominance in the set out there. Probably get to that once I start talking about my deck list. Alright, so I wasn't even supposed to like play in this, sounds good, alright. I wasn't even supposed to play in this tournament, but I happened to be awake at around when the tournament started, so I didn't even pre-register. So I registered last minute, and I just honestly I entered for the memes. I was like, oh, I'll just play a couple rounds, lose, especially with Data Live out now, right? With all the standby and all that stuff. Didn't have a really good chance to get very far, so I figured I'd just lose early, and then I entered for the memes. And then this happened. So, hold on here. Let me switch over the screen real quick. Here we go. This is the tournament that was entered for those that aren't aware. I placed third. These were the matchups. So, first 4 wins, yeah. Every win, I'm just like, why am I still here? This isn't supposed to happen. Especially, I mean, because it's like the Batman is only progressively getting like weaker and weaker as like more sets get released. Especially with the meta shifting to like standby. Batman's like the level 1 game is just like requires reverses or it's just on attack draw 1, so it's not that great against standby meta, right? So it's just progressively getting worse. My round 1 was Data Live, so I'm just like, alright, I'm probably not gonna, if round 1 is already Data Live, I'm not gonna stay in the tournament very long. Yeah, they took off the VOD. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get the VOD, honestly, because of all the issues with finals and all that. But yeah, these are the standings. And then for those who haven't looked already, this is the deck list, and I guess I'll talk about other things. What do I think about the Data Live dominance of the set in the meta? I think it's definitely an issue, but whether or not it needs to get on the ban list or anything like that, I think it might be too early to tell. I don't know if it is too early to tell or it might be too early to tell. I think it might be too early to tell, especially with tournaments just being held online like this. So some people definitely aren't playing for the online tournaments. Like me personally, right? This is most likely going to be my very last online tournament because I personally do not like I don't know, the atmosphere and all that, right? And tying in with the whole like the VODs probably aren't going to be up and stuff like that with the issues with one of the things I don't like about online games is that you can't interact with your opponent's cards. Like I like reading like English and Japanese, right? I like being able to like read the cards physically. So when I don't know what my opponent's cards do, sometimes, right? I like just picking up the card and just reading what they do, because it's one thing reading it yourself and another thing getting it explained by you, right? Another thing is, especially if it's like a set that I have completely no idea, or like if it's a new set that came out that I haven't like read up on yet, right? While it's my opponent's turn and they're doing their stuff, like I would like to pick up my opponent's waiting room and just like read through cards, like counters, anything that I feel is relevant, right? But you can't do that online, so it's just like you have to ask your opponent for everything, or like have pull up a little window on the side and read up cards separately, individually, and you're not even exactly sure what's in the waiting room, right? So that stuff is mainly why I like playing online. And another thing is tying into the issues that people had yesterday was shuffling, right? Because not a lot of people like understand, like fundamentally understand like what shuffling is and how shuffling works and how to randomize stuff, right? So a lot of matches like in physical tournaments and stuff like that, I'll see my opponent shuffle and it's like it's clearly not randomized, right? So like when they ask me to cut, I'll just shuffle their deck for them, and it's like a non-issue because I randomized the deck for them, right? Because they clearly didn't randomize. You can't really do that effectively in an online tournament where your opponent has like complete control and you have like no way to like move their cards, right? So like it's always kind of like almost all the shuffling in the tournament, like majority of the shuffling in the tournament is just kind of like scuff, right? And then there's the whole cheating allegation or whatever, but that's like a different story. But it's just fundamentally comes down to people knowing shuffling, how to shuffle, and like knowing what shuffling is and how to randomize their cards. So I'll try to mitigate some of it by like sometimes asking for like different cuts and stuff like that, like you guys saw in one of the streams. But that only goes so far, other than like asking to like shuffle more, I guess. But then like if they're not shuffling properly in the first place, that doesn't really do a whole lot. So that's one of the biggest reasons I don't like playing online tournaments. So this will probably be my last. Yeah, Adventure Time does have a lot of potential. I'm surprised that it's not getting more representation. I feel like Adventure Time's a pretty strong, solid set. It has a lot of tools and a lot of meta stuff, right? So I'm kind of disappointed at the lack of representation. I want to see more of that. What changes did you make in your list, knowing Data Live was probably going to be the most prominent in the tournament? Um, Honestly, not a whole lot. The only changes I made was obviously Quake Engine. Like I've been telling people, like don't play that. That was just a testing thing, but don't copy that Decklist. The only thing I would make on top of right now, specifically for like standby meta and stuff like that, I would probably put the Batman level 1 combo here, the demo deck one, right? I would probably put that at 2 copies instead of 1, because there were a couple games where I played against standby stuff, right? And they have giant walls up. And having only 1 copy of this card, and you just get shut down on all other lanes, and then this, like, especially when it becomes like late level 1 or level 2, right? And you just can't contend their board with this level 1 card. So this level 1 card just becomes a dead card for the most part, right? You would, if at that point, you would rather be playing this oversized beater, so you have like some resemblance of a chance of like killing anything with their like high level 1s, right? So this being at 2 is probably better now, so like a 2 and 2. But I wouldn't go like 3 and 1, because if you do 3 and 1, right? So that might be better in like a standby matchup, but all other matches, right, where you're gonna have reverse targets, you want reverse targets, because this is draw 2, discard 1, so it hand fixes, mills your deck more, right? Gives you more options than a straight draw 1. So depending on like the spread of how many wall decks there are, standby decks there are, like, right, you want to just adjust higher. So right now it kind of feels like a 50-50. Oh, let's see here. There's a standby here. This is like anti-reverse, right? Standby here. Let's see. Standby, right? Or anti-reverse 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of, what is this, 10 matches? So that's like a 50-50, right? So out of 50-50, I think it's like pretty fair to 2 and 2 split here. But other than that, yeah, I put the grappling hook, I put it down to 1 at one point, but I mainly put it back up to 2 for the rest, plus 1,000 somewhere. I feel like the extra power is helpful. Ideally, I want power on the defense as well, so I tried this one card that was, hold on. I tried this one card for a short while to see if it's any value, but turns out it wasn't, unfortunately, because I really want like power on the defense as well, because some of the cards are decently powered, right? So I tried this for a while, but like it's 500 front, and I thought maybe like the hand fixing issues it has because there's a bunch of draws in the deck, right? So I thought the pay 2 search would help me out, but then like turns out the pay 2, the cost is just so high for Batman. It's just paying 2 for a plussing choice card is not worth it for the most part. You almost rather like just pay 1 and clock yourself to salvage anything, even late game. Changes for the 4 early plays, I feel like that was definitely like a welcome change. Like, I don't know what I was thinking trying to play 3 copies originally. The 4 copies gives you way more flexibility. Even at 4 copies, I feel like at level 2 I had issues trying to play or keep up with their opponent's early plays, right? That's why I play this, which helps a lot. This is definitely like a solid 2 of. It helps you deal with so many things, especially in standby meta now. If they have like a 2/2, like the Data Live, the 2/2 comes out and it's like pretty big, right? This helps you deal with it. Like they need to have a counter, yeah, like above like a 1/0 counter to like deal with it if you do proper power pumps and stuff like that. Because this is just a flat 12k by itself. So I wish there were more early plays I could play, honestly. If I had more options, I would probably run like 5 to 6 early plays total. But this is like the only thing Batman has for the most part, so it's at 4 copies. But yeah, I wish this number was higher. I'm doing good shuffles. Yeah. So I was streamed twice, I believe. Yeah. And I don't, luck would have it, obviously, the 2 games that get streamed are like the worst games I had. I believe it was this one. Yeah, it was this one that got streamed, right? And then this one that got streamed. This was pardon the language, but this was a pretty big shit show, honestly. Like I got super aggressive early game, as some of the commentators pointed out, with the tri-laning, killing the Aaron and stuff like that. The idea was the opponent was already out 2 errands, I believe, right? So I wanted to bank on him not giving the opponent time to get the 1/0 errands, right? And then after attacking, I think he was down to 1 copy, right? So I was hoping like maybe it's in the waiting room. He only had 1 stock, right? And then also the fact that he had the mulligan 5 and then draw clock and to draw 3 more cards, right? To draw into the climax. So if he didn't draw into the climax and like was able to get the 4th errand, I feel like that would have been a bigger payoff. But he was able to get the climax and the errand, and just kind of went downhill from there, honestly. And then like later on in the game, I just didn't get any of the pieces that I needed. I kind of drew into not very useful stuff. So, and then at the end game, I believe the commentators were very confused on why they didn't just go for the game, right? Because I don't remember exactly, but I probably had a climaxless finisher in the waiting room. But the problem was, like, I've made a conscious decision on not being able to kill my opponent that turn, because my entire deck was like no triggers. Like I was out all my triggers, right? I had no climax. I was out all my climaxes, right? So based on like how much soul I can output, even if I can get a reverse, right? So that's like 4 damage and then like a 1-in-1 or something like that, I believe. So I think my opponent was at like 3-1, 3-2 or something like that. I believe maybe 3-3, right? And then he was like, he had a pretty decent compression. So like my math, I was like, there is no way that I kill my opponent even with the restand this turn. So I just went with a play that like, hopefully I live next turn, and if my opponent doesn't draw into the Mikasa climax combo, right? Or even if they did, I would have to cancel like all their attacks for the most part. Yeah, all their attacks, and then one of the burns, and I can take 1 burn, and I would live. So I don't know. I just that's the play I went with. So that's why the last turn looked weird, because I consciously made the decision to not go for the finishing play, because I didn't see like the chances of me winning that turn with like no soul triggers, no climaxes, with like 1 restand was so low. I feel like I felt better going with the other way and just hope my opponent didn't draw into the climax. Would you ever bling out the Batman Ninja deck? No. I believe I asked. I believe you asked me this before. I generally don't play high rarity. Like, most of my collection is just base rarity. I play for the game for the most part, to like play the game, right? Obviously, you know, if it was like free or whatever, or like a free upgrade, I would want it because they look nice, super nice and all that, right? But I like money too much, man. It's like the cost difference between like the high rarity and the low rarity is just like too much. Even my Miku stuff, like all my I have like 2 playsets of everything base rarity in Japanese, right, for the Miku stuff. Even that, I have very select cards where I have just high rarity SPs and stuff like that, and everything else is just low rarity. Yeah. Also, oh yeah. The grappling hook, like this match right here. There was definitely a turn. Unfortunately, like even with the 10-minute delay, I wasn't able to see what the stream reactions were. That play where I brought up the brainstormer from the back row and then killed it. My opponent didn't even like know that's what it did, right? That was definitely for the memes for the stream, because that was it wasn't a bad play, but it was like an okay play. But I made the choice of going with that for the stream. So I don't know what the reactions were in the stream, but hopefully it was I hope you guys enjoyed that, because I know there's memes going around with the grappling hook. And then similar thing here. Also, although I think it was better in this situation than it was in the Attack on Titan situation. It was being streamed. You guys like grappling hook? I'll play it if it gives me some value. But yeah, I definitely had other plays when I played grappling hook, like in this match and in this match when it was on stream. So the fact that it was being streamed definitely pushed me over the edge on yeah, I'll do it. Any chance you get to decent chance you get to use the ability. It's fun times. Yeah, this is pretty whatever. And then this one, yeah, the opponent was canceling like crazy, and I didn't really have a bad game, honestly. It was like a pretty decent game. It was just, it could have been better. I really wish if I had the choice, like this game would have been streamed, because this game was pretty sick. My opponent was like not doing so well, but it was not doing so bad either, right? Maybe like 80% of their capacity of top end, right? And they got their like triple Shizu early playoff and everything like that, and we were both really compressed and canceling back and forth like crazy. I was honestly wondered if we were gonna worry that we're gonna go like overtime, right? Because we were canceling so much and all that. At one point they waited. I played my early plays first, and you could clearly tell they waited because they were already level 2. They had the early play condition, right? And they didn't play the early play Shizu. They waited for me to play the early play Shizu first, or early play first. I played like my one Catwoman, because that's trying to get more than one Catwoman is pretty hard. Played my one Catwoman. They played their anti early play. What was it? The old guy. Where is it? There you go. Yeah, they played the anti early play. Removed my board, right? And then because I had this thing, right? They had I had this, or like I had like 1 or 2 of these, right? And then the other one might have been this. I had that out, and then they ran it in, kind of left board, right? After they got rid of it, I like just I didn't have another Catwoman, I believe. Either that or I played another Catwoman. And then I just had like 2 of these on the board, and then in the middle one, I don't remember if it was either a small one or like another Catwoman. And then they tripled Shizu early play, right? And then they got me to 2-5 right before refresh, so I like clocked myself to force myself to level 3, and then I just played like the trial deck. I just played the trial deck level 3, like this combo level 3, and then like this level 2, just to kill their board, right? Because they're at that point they were running low on hand. I think they had like 3 or 4 cards left in hand, so I went out of my way to just like wipe their board, and this just kind of kept happening back and forth. And then I did have the climax, I believe, so I had the option to restand, but they were like level 2 and I was level 3. I think they were like 2-4 or something like that, so I believe I didn't restand, or I did restand and they just canceled anyways. I don't think I restood that turn though. It was like a turn after. So that was a really good game. So I wish that was the one that was streamed, but it wasn't. And then this time, like I said, I entered for the memes for the most part, so I didn't record any of it. So that kind of sucks, because all the previous online matches or online tournaments, I recorded like my screen. Hello, hello. Alright, I think we're back. Yeah, the stream hiccuped, it looks like. Where did I get cut off? Alright, I was talking about the whole... I was addressing Shizukat's question on double armored level 1 climax. Where did I get cut off? Yeah, the stream delay kind of sucks, but I don't think the low latency works too well because my internet is poop. I wish this was the game that got streamed. That is way back. Are you sure that's where I got cut off? Did you guys not hear the part on like why this is the game that I wanted it to be streamed? All my previous, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay then, yeah. Then it's just the part where I was explaining the thing with this match then. Yeah, on reverse, the draw 2 discard one with this combo, I believe, is the one in the top 4 is what you're asking. Yeah. So yeah, there was a turn where I had 2 climaxes in hand, one book, and then one gate, the blue gate, right? So I had like a decent, like 10ish cards left in my deck or something like that, or something. I'll have like a deck left at the end of the turn, but not too much, right? So I was like, I'll double combo, right? And then I'll ditch the last climax in my hand. Except every time I drew something with this, I also drew a climax. So I drew a climax and a non-climax. So I had to ditch like one climax, right? And then I did it again, and I drew it into a climax and a non-climax. So like at the end of turn, I still had a climax left in my hand. So that kind of sucked. I assume that's the one, that's the match that you're asking about. So I didn't draw 4 climaxes. Yeah, I just drew 1 and 1. So I didn't get uber screwed or anything like that. Yeah. Will I ever bring out the Batman deck for the real memes? No, I will not. That costs too much money, man. Especially now. Can you imagine trying to bring out Batman Ninja? Like, how much are these cards? Like, I need 4 of these, right? That's nuts. And I need like 2 of these. Holy crap. Are you crazy? What else do I need? I need 4 of these, right? I need 2 of these. I need 4 of these. Man, what else? I need 2 to 3 of these. No, yeah. I am not going to. Not even for the memes, man. At which point did you feel you had momentum on your side as the wins accumulated? You mean like throughout the tournament is what you're asking, right? Honestly, throughout the whole tournament, I'm like, why am I winning? Why am I still here? Because like I said, I entered for the memes for the most part because people like me playing Batman for whatever reason. So I was like, sure, I guess. I'm awake at 8 o'clock in the morning because I woke up at like midnight the night before or something like that. I only got 2 hours of sleep. I went to sleep early at like 10 p.m. I was like, oh, I'll get some sleep. And I woke up at midnight. I'm like, oh, I can't go back to sleep. And I happened to be awake when the tournament started, so I entered. Yeah, at this point, and then I got matched up against Jeffrey here, and I was just kind of, you know, half memes, half serious, just playing it. Because if I got a loss, he wins. It's like whatever. I didn't enter the tournament in it for the win it, in it to win it or anything like that, anyways, right? So if he got to the win, it's all good, whatever. And then the next match, unfortunate loss. I don't remember too much about this match, honestly. I would have to see who I played against. But I probably didn't have a good game here. Yeah, and then after that, after this, the 2 losses, for some reason I thought in my head this was double elim because that's how like a lot of Bushiroad tournaments are, right? So I was like, I'm done. I got 2 losses. I can't make it anymore. So I like cleaned up my entire like setup with like the webcam and everything like that. And then like Simu over here like messages me on Discord is like, no way, June, you're not done. I'm like, wait, what do you mean I'm not done? I have 2 losses, I can't make it. And then he's like, no, you can still make it. You can like bubble into top. I'm just like, what? So I looked up the participation numbers, and there was apparently only 111 people in the tournament, not like the full 128 cap. So that means there were gonna be X2s that make it, and apparently I was pretty up there in like tiebreakers. So I like had to put all my stuff back up, and then I played, and I played against what's his name, Christian, yeah, against this, and then he did not have a good game. I believe he got to level 3 before first refresh. So I mean, he didn't have like a good climax or anything like that, and Batman did what it does, just push a bunch of damage early on, rush my opponent, and it worked. It paid off. How did the 4 Catwoman early play feel compared to 2 early play 2 Quake? Yeah, the Quake is just like way too fringe. The biggest problem is that like your opponent has to be level 3. I think that's the huge down. Like if your opponent level 3 condition didn't exist, like if your opponent could be level 2, right, and you can use it, I feel like I would test it more. But there were so many times when I played Quake Engine where I was level 3, and, you know, I had like a decent amount to like use it, and my opponent was like 2-2 or something like that, and I wanted to use it and I couldn't because the condition wasn't fulfilled. So I think the part where your opponent also has to be level 3, it's a huge demerit. Makes it basically not worth it, unless the meta slows down like way more, where level 3s don't do anything anymore. I need Springfest Batmans? What do you mean I need Springfest Batmans? Oh my... You're talking about this one, but the spring... Oh no, yeah, no, not max raring it. Yeah, no, no. 100 and TD's 400. June playing Batman is the people's champ at this point. Oh man, yeah, I don't know why you guys enjoy me playing Batman so much. One of the reasons I think I get asked a lot, like, why do you play Batman? Do I like Batman that much? I honestly don't care Batman for much as a franchise or anything like that, right? The biggest reason I play Batman is that I generally like playing underpowered sets, or like not necessarily underpowered, but underappreciated, like what's the word I'm looking for? Underestimated, yeah. Underestimated like sets, right? I think another set that falls into this category is that has very low representation is Excel World. Excel World Infinite Burst, when that came out in Japanese, I played that a lot and got like a pretty good number of tournament wins with it because it's very underappreciated. I feel like this set has like a lot of things. It has like on the Takatsuki, it has early play, it has on attack or top check burn one, it has like restanders, right? It has so many things going for it. It has a good level 1 game, good level 3 game, right? But nobody plays this. Like the franchise is also very weak. There are not that many fans, right? And people just generally think it sucks. And the like playing for the underdog is a lot of fun, right? Like you guys look at people wishing that like Batman wins because it's the underdog, right? So I get a lot of enjoyment out of playing underappreciated, underestimated decks, because I know this set isn't like, obviously it's not great. Like there's a ton of like vanilla effects in here, right? It could be better. But some cards like stand out. Like this Catwoman is really good. It's a really one of the better brainstormers. Same with this Salvager, right? It has better profile cards. Like this Restander is also really good, honestly. Like if it was in other sets. I think the biggest problem I have with this card is that like the pay 3 discard one, and the discard one has to be a character. I feel like that's like an unnecessary demerit. If that was a discard anything, this card would be a lot better. And then the reason this card is like, I feel like is good, is because this card exists. I feel like without this card, the Restander wouldn't be nearly as good, because this just basically lets you run 6 copies of the Restander, and it also gives you untargetable, which is one of the weakest points of a Restander, right? Because anti-damage counter, like money counter, right? Just shuts down all that stuff. So because of this, and then rest counters as well, because of this, literally the only thing you have to worry about not being getting this off, right, is memory kick when you lose power. That's the only thing you got to worry about. But then the Alfred also pumps like 2k power, so you're swinging for 14k minimum without anything else. Because Batman's 11k, 12k with the climax, and then plus 2k is 14k, right? So 14k is like a sizable amount of power before anything. So I feel like it's the floor is pretty high. I guess the only demerit is that if they have no board, you have to like direct into a 4 and a 5. So that kind of sucks. But that's why we run the trial deck one. That's why we run this, right? So, well, I guess if they have no board, then it still kind of sucks. But yeah. Let's see. What else? I'm trying to reach out as much as possible to see if there are any questions. Yeah, 111. Yeah, 111. Like SoCal in general just has had like the highest number of participation, I believe, for regionals. Like in general, it has always been like somewhere around like sub 200, and in recent years it has always been like 200 plus, I believe. But I hear other regionals just don't get nearly as much numbers. So I really hope more and more people play, especially with the new people that are joining the game, right? All the collectors, hopefully they become players, or at least some of them, right? You only played Weiss because you made Batman Ninja viable. Well, that's good to hear. Underdog, yeah. What do you think of Mob? I think Mob, right, is also another underappreciated set. It does have its weaknesses, just like Batman, but I believe Mob is just objectively better than Batman. So if you like playing a slightly underappreciated set or an underdog set, right, but you don't want it to be as like quote unquote as weak as Batman, right, Mob is probably your go-to. It has a ton of stuff, but the weakest thing about Mob is that they designed it in a way where you can't really mix too much of the set. Like the whole Spirit, right? This coin flip is like a really good card, except it only has Spirit in its card in a trait, so it doesn't synergize with like literally anything else except in like the Spirit deck, right? So this is really hard to squeeze in. Plus it's green. Green is just like mostly worthless. There's like this green card that's like good to run ideally, but it's green. And then another thing is Reagan cards. Reagan cards don't have Esper trait, like straight out, and most of the stuff in this set like searches Esper and stuff like that, right? So that really sucks. Like the saving grace is that if you run the Brainstormer, which most decks are going to, it gives Reagan's on-board Esper, so it works with that. But other than that, it still sucks for like certain effects, like I think some top checks and stuff like that can't grab Reagan, and Reagan has like some of the best cards. Like he has that, he has a stock swap, he has this card, right? And then this card is also good, but that's, yeah. And a lot of people, this is like one of the favorite finishers, I believe. I personally like this finisher more in Mob because it requires less setup, right? It's just a pure restander, and then yeah, it's just easier. It requires less effort too, less setup, less resources, all that. Although this doesn't require too much setup, right? So the variance is like lower on this card, right? But like the requirements is like a little higher, right? The variance is really high in this card, right? Because like low requirements, you can get one off super easy, right? But you could also just get off more, like 2 copies or more. Also, on top of that, if you stack Wig on top of like 2 mobs, if you do like 2 Wigs into two mobs, that's like nuts, right? So that's like the ceiling. You get 2 Wigs, 2 mobs, and that's just super nutty. So that's the build I have right now for a Mob. But like I said, the variance is like super high. Whether or not I get like any reverse combo off or any Wigs off in games is super all over the place. So depending on what kind of a build you want to build. And then I think this card is probably another underappreciated, I feel like. I think some people that are in the know like understand that this card is like nuts, right? I think this card is one of like the best cards in the set because it's a top check add one, right, for Esper Claw, right? Except it doesn't require anything. It just requires you to sack something that's already probably gonna die anyway. Right? If you build it in like this deck, where you run the standby combo, this thing's already dead because you killed something with like the on reverse effect, right? And then you immediately sack it for this. So you're just like, this sometimes, right? This just becomes on attack top check add one. That effect is on a climax combo for some sets. So my deck right now, the level 1 combo just entirely revolves around the plussing engine for this card. So my deck right now runs this finisher, no level 1 climax combo, right? And then empty blue gate, because where's the other card that's nuts in this set? Where'd it go? This card. Yeah, this card is also nuts. Yeah, this card is restricted in Japanese style because it's nuts. This card is also worded in a way where you just like can't minus whatsoever. It's like whenever you trigger a climax, if you run like 8 gates, it's like whenever you trigger a climax, right? You can discard a card and salvage any card, which is pretty nutty. And then what was the other thing? Oh yeah, even if you don't have a target to +1, right? Let's say you trigger a gate, right, and you have no gate in your waiting room, you still use this effect, so you can hand fix. So worst case, this just becomes a hand fix. This card's nuts. So this is the biggest reason why I run empty 8 gate in my deck. I should probably try like other builds. I've tried like the standby build, right? I didn't like it too much. I felt clunky. This one felt clunky. But yeah, I don't know. My playstyle as well, where you just kind of like jam stuff down, right? And then just swing. And then you trigger a gate, and then you like +1, and then hand fix. I think it's really good. Another card that's stand out in mob is this right here. This is like an anti-higher level with like a coin flip on whether or not it costs you a stock or not, which is pretty nutty. So I feel like in current meta, you could probably run like 2 of these, be safe with it. So yeah, those are my general thoughts about mob. Those cards like the wig, the 1/1, the 4 gate, Muto, the Restander, I think are really good cards. Also honorable mention, I guess, is this is a isn't this loading? The show early play is a very good card as well. I think it's just a solid early play, and then it just has this bonus ability where you can blind stuck if you reverse level 2 or higher, which I feel like, especially in the current meta, is just kind of like iffy on whether or not you get any value off of it anyway. So I would consider it a bonus offer. Reagan also can't summon the Brainstorm. Character with moments. Can it not? What do you mean? Wait, what? Why can this not summon Brainstorm? Character with mob in its card name. Is it because of the quotations? Is that some like ruling BS? My favorite level 1 combo in mob. Honestly not sure. I think if I had to choose, it would probably be the standby, because it works so well with the Muto. Oh, the quotations thing? Yeah, like I don't. Is that even like actually recognized? Is just like one of those BS things? Just like the whole Kirito and Asuna cards thing, where it's just like, yeah, this is mob, but like technically it's not, but everybody just assumes so and just rolls with it because, you know, Bushiroad ruling be like that, especially for English. But yeah, runner up for level 1 combo is probably the Teruki. So, but that has its pros and cons. The fact that you like have to discard a card to do anything kind of sucks. But if you're going yellow heavy, it's good. How would I describe my playstyle? My playstyle like involves like 2 different ways of playstyle, right? One of the playstyles that I have is like rushing my opponent, because this is another thing that I believe people, if you want to be like a better player, right? I don't want to like high horse it or anything like that, but I see this a lot. And like especially newer players and like that, right? If you have a bad game, like you open with like 5 climaxes in your hand and stuff like that, right? A lot of people will be like, all right, I scoop, let's go on to the next game because this game is garbage, I'm gonna lose anyways, right? And then they get 0 practice on like what they would do in a bad situation. So that's why one of the reasons I like playing these like rush kind of decks, right? Because a lot of people, that's how honestly this deck gets a lot of wins, because when you rush your opponent, right, if they don't have enough practice on what to do in a bad situation, they're just not gonna make correct decisions, because it's very different on your decisions on what to do in a game when you're in a bad situation compared to like a mediocre or good situation. It's completely different, right? Like certain things, certain actions, like you would never do, right? Like 3-costing or 3-costing twice, spending 6 stock. You would never do that in like a good game, right? When you're having a good, like mediocre to a good game. But when you're really down, you're like super screwed. Like you have to do it. But a lot of people won't do that. Like if you want to know my win rate against like good players that understand how this deck works, right, and know how to play against it, is very low. It's like not even 50%. I am not gonna lie. If you know how to play against this deck, this deck does not do very well, because the weaknesses of like trying to rush early game, right? But if the deck I'm playing against is also like a semi-rush deck that can like, or like it's a mid-range deck that can also steer towards like being rushed and can keep up with the resources, they'll abuse that against me, and then like I just can't keep up, right? Because they generally will have more resources than I do, because the rest of their deck like supports that, right? So that's one way of that's one way of my playstyle. The other playstyle I really like playing is denying stuff from my opponent. So this also goes hand in hand with like one of the reasons I like playing Batman is like at one point, not as much anymore, but at one point like on reverse effects were very prevalent, right? So like Gorilla God denying stuff, and then like Batman, the Bat Clan of Hida denying stuff by bouncing Batmans. I like denying my opponent's effects. That's another thing that it goes back into practicing situations where you just don't get what you want to get out of your deck, right? Like playing Attack on Titan and not getting your level 1 combo, right? Getting 0 copies of Aaron and stuff like that. If you ever get into those games, right, you should play it out to the end and see what your lines of play become, because it'll be very different. And a lot of people just don't practice for that. That's another reason why I've made it so far with Railgun several years ago, like 2 years in a row, right? Because the Railgun just like revolves around just denying my opponent everything, starting at level 1, right? Level 0 on one of the years, right? Because it had the runner. I used the runner at one point because clean cut was prevalent at that time. So Railgun revolved around like just denying my opponents on reverses, because the meta was super, in the Japanese meta anyways, was like on reverse left and right. So I believe like 70% of my matchups, if not 80%, had like on reverse level 1 combos. So I just like destroyed all those matchups. And then not only the Dragon Strike that just sacks a character, right? If they reverse anything, like another one of my characters gets like with the 1500 pump for Railgun. So it's just denying my opponents their plussing engine and stuff like that they just come to expect to, you know, always have, right? And then you just throw a wrench into their playstyle, or like what's expected for their deck to operate, right? And then, like I said, a lot of people don't know how to deal with that, and that gives me a lot of wins. Let's see, what else? Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's those are like my playstyles and the reasons I play Batman and like certain types of decks. What else is there to talk about? This game, yeah, this is another match that would have been pretty fun being streamed. Because like I said, I wasn't expecting to stay in the tournament this much, right? Wait, restander question? What restander question? What restander question? Oh, I feel like you seem to favor restanders and Railgun Batman. Even a mob. The reason I like restanders, right, is because I believe twofold. One, the meta doesn't punish restanders too much right now, or like it hasn't in like years. They're like, because restanders get punished by like money counters, right, and what do you call it? Rest counters just get, you know, destroyed either way. Money counters and memory kicks, right? Not a whole lot of sets have like memory kicks, or like even care to put in memory kicks, even if they have it. Like good example is Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan has a memory kick counter. Nobody runs that. Same with Persona 5, right? Basically nobody runs that. the reason I favor restanders is because it gives you more control. The cost, the ones I play anyways, right? The cost is paid at the end of attack, or like the start of next attack or something like that, right? So you know whether or not you want to pay the cost for this standing effect or like get another attack after you gain more information on your attack, right? Instead of like stuff that are like on attack burn or something like that, right? Also, generally speaking, the cost is much lower on a restander than it is like on an on attack burn. So stuff like Adventure Time, right, is also something I would enjoy playing because it's at the end of attack, right? So you know whether or not. Oh no, this is on attack. Never mind. Yeah, this is the reason why I don't really like it. All right, never mind. But yeah, this is on attack, and then like you just don't know if you're gonna deal this too, because if this gets memory kicked, this doesn't burn too. So you're paying like, if you're paying on attack, pay 2, discard 1 for a cancel burn on this card for that one attack, and if it gets reversed and sent to memory, it doesn't do anything else, right? So the fact that restanders let you pay cost after you know that you're gonna get this extra attack, and on top of that, if something is in front of it, it gives you side attacking opportunities. Like if you attack a level 1 or level 2, or like if it's a climax combo, right? On the second attack, it gives you a side attack for a lower soul, so you have better control on what that number is. So that's generally why I appear to prefer or favor restanders, because I believe it gives you more options at less risk, with more information. Yeah, it's just not much else. There are some cards in other, like I believe in Japanese sets, there are some cards that do similar effects like a restander, like at the end of attack they can like burn for X amount or whatever, right? I think those are super good, because you could just decide afterwards whether one you want to pay cost. Because the worst thing is when you pay a cost for a finisher and your opponent shuts you down and your finisher effect like didn't do anything. Like best case scenario, you traded your resources of cost playing the cost of playing the extra attack, right? And your opponent, you exchange it 1-to-1 with whatever your opponent's cost was for denying that. So if you played like pay 2, discard 1, right, and your opponent just money counted, right, you just exchange those resources. And it's not always going to be like a 1-to-1 favorable exchange. Sometimes that exchange is not on your side and it's better for your opponent, or vice versa, right? 2 infiltrations. What was infiltration? Oh yeah, the Batman 1-0 infiltration. Yeah, I feel like this does have its demerits. Like not requiring 2 back row like sucks a lot. Like it's huge, right? But the 1065, the body is just, if they're not playing like a climax combo or like a 1-1 or a 2-2, this like pluses me so much. You won't believe the number of times that this just lives because my opponent doesn't want to deal with it, or like doesn't even want to bother. Can you explain Gorilla Grodd, like what potential it has? Gorilla Grodd, the biggest thing with Gorilla Grodd, like in its simplest form, right, is that it just pluses you a hand. If at any point in the game you have an empty slot to swing at, right, and your hand is like not already full, you just swing there with Gorilla Grodd, right? And then worst case scenario, right, this is like you have to pay 1 to deny your opponent's stuff, and then I guess you plus 1, right? It's just a very easy way to plus 1, and it also has the bonus effect of denying your opponent's reverses. There's the biggest thing. And then earlier on in the game, it gives you no punishment for the most part for attacking more than, like, you know, if at any point in the early game you're attacking less than 3 times already with like good characters or whatever, right? You should almost always swing with Gorilla Grodd, because it's just free damage. Because the stock that you generate from attacking this, right, gets paid out and it just comes back to your hand, right? So it's a ±0, right? Because you putting it on the board is like a -1, and then you bring it back, right? And then the stock that you pay is the one that you generated with Gorilla Guard in the first place. So math-wise, you just end up with just an extra attack against your opponent. That's it. At any point, you were not already attacking 3 times. And then obviously, like, provided that this doesn't die. And then it also traps changes into infiltration. But that's not as big, honestly. Like, it's a bonus that this trap changes into this. Like, I would probably still run this 1-0. even if it didn't trap change from Gorilla Grodd, but it's just a bonus that it does. What did you think about the entire sus shuffle stuff? Yeah, you're talking about this game, right? Yeah. Personal opinions, I think Bushiroad should do their due diligence and be more proactive in like judging. Like, what was the point of having that many judges? There were like 2 to 3 judges in the room that we were playing in, right? What was the point of having that many judges in the call if they were not like properly doing their job in active judging, right? That being said, I also missed the like face up shuffling because a lot of things were going on in my head at that time because like I said, I wasn't supposed to be there that long. So yeah, I have like chronic back pain, so my back was in a lot of pain, so I was also like slightly tilted and triggered of the player. Nothing against the player because I'm also a slow player. The player was playing very slowly, like, so I was a bit triggered because I didn't want to be there anymore at this point. Like I said, like after X number of rounds, I'm just like, why am I still here? So I just wanted the game to go fast and be over, but they were taking their sweet time, so I missed it. I feel like Bushiroad should learn from this, right? And I don't know, just be proactive. And I also feel like Bushiroad has like a long history of not wanting to give people game losses and like DQs or whatever, right? I feel like that's just bad because, like, let's say you DQ, like, not necessarily this person for like any rule infraction or anything that's just like widely viewed as by the community as like not fair or like potentially cheating or like shouldn't have happened, right? Like not limited to this, right? You DQing or like giving a game loss to somebody, right, pisses off like that person and their group of friends, compared to not doing so could potentially piss off like half the community or more, right? So I feel like that's like a super easy math on which side you want to piss off, but like they always time and time again choose the option that pisses off the community over the player, and I feel like that's just objectively wrong. But I could be wrong. I don't know. That's my opinion. Oh, what is this? So I hope that answers your question. Opponent can crash into your board, forcing you to big swing. That's one of the ways. Yeah, and the unknown trigger makes it awkward. Yeah, that's one of the ways I won with Railgun. Back when Railgun was relevant, right? One of my many lines of play was just like when I got to late level 1 or / level 2, right? And my opponent just plays these like big gigantic standbys or like early plays, because early plays it was just all early plays left and right, early play heals back then, right? And then they'll play a bunch of them, and then like early on, if they only played like 1 or 2, like I'll try to deal with it with 2-1 accelerator, tie it and stuff like that, right? Or sometimes if they play 2, I can like set up the board a certain way so I can like tie with them, right? But generally speaking, I always want to like tie with them and then like leave an empty board afterwards, because if they're just gonna, if they stay at level 2, right, they're just gonna play early plays again with like 2 soul beaters, except my board is empty, right? So 2 soul beaters into an empty board, you're swinging for 3 already, plus any triggers that they have, right? And generally speaking, like a third of your deck is gonna be triggers, especially if you're a type of deck that plays like standby or early play spam, right? It's gonna be higher than 30%. So chances of you swinging for 3 or higher into an already compressed deck with Railgun, right? My chances to cancel are just like astronomically high. So that's one of the reasons that the Railgun had such a good win rate, and people seem to discount that fact on, and like couldn't figure out why I won with Railgun when I just straight up gave up my level 2 game. Is because like simple math is like when both players are compressed, right, and they're swinging for like 3 minimum, right, 3 plus trigger, compared to like me swinging for like 1s or 2s, depending on like if I'm ramming things in or playing a climax, right, plus trigger, like chances are in my favor that I'm gonna do damage and they're not. So a lot of players that I play against Railgun, especially back then, it's like not as good anymore because the decks are way more varied now and like not as much on reverse, right? So yeah, that's a lot of players that I play against gets triggered pretty heavily when I cancel a lot, and they're like, "How are you canceling?" I'm just like, I never really tell them, and you know, but it's simple math, man. When you're swinging high at level 2, when both players compress, that's 3's not gonna go in as often as like 1s and 2s. What set do you see yourself playing more than others? Like how you favored playing Batman? I don't know, honestly. I guess Mob. I have a playset of Mob, so I try to play that, but the restrictions on it is just makes it just sometimes not fun to play, because like some cards you just want to run but you can't because it's trait locked, essentially trait locked. But yeah, underrated sets. Card Captor Sakura, I really wish to revisit that at one point, but it's just I've tried to rack my brain around making a good deck out of this, and it's super hard. You have to work so much for the same amount of results that you get in other sets for like super free, right? The level 2, the change engine, right? It's really cool on paper, but in like practicality it's just super convoluted, unnecessarily convoluted. Also, the fact that you have to discard 2 characters here just makes it so punishing. Did you run into problems with bad deck states and being unable to mill out, especially playing that many games in a row? It doesn't seem like there's much mill on your list. Okay, so that's another thing that I feel like people discount, right? Batman has a pretty good amount of mills, right? The Brainstormer is the rest itself, mills 4, right? The Ricky effect, the Sengoku Batman, that mills 2 on play, right? This Batman Back in Time, mills 2 on play, right? And then one of the biggest reasons that people discount and say Batman doesn't mill, right, is because they run 4 copies of this card instead of this card. They run 4 copies of the draw one instead of this one. This is an extra mill every time you reverse something. And most of your games, you're just gonna, or like half your games, I guess, based on the math earlier, right? Half your games, you're gonna get that extra mill. It also fixes hand. So if you account for those and then like plan properly, right? Early game you should account for like how many you mulligan. Like start of the game, how many you mulligan matters on like how aggressively you need to mill, like prior to level 1 refresh or not. So a lot of people discount that because a lot of sets just are very forgiving, right? Because you can just mill your deck whenever, wherever, right? But older sets, right, that have very limited mill conditions, like even Railgun, right, it has very limited mill conditions. Before the game starts, when you mulligan, depending on how many you mulliganed, right, already sets whether or not you need to mill aggressively or not. So that's one thing that people don't pay attention to. So like one of the games, I believe I had to, like, I think most of the games in this tournament I barely milled anything. I think I mulliganed like 2, maybe 3 copies, right, of a card. I think there was only one game where I mulliganed 5. I think it was the last match right here. I mulliganed 5. So I knew that match I was like super more lax about having to mill my deck because I already got a free mill 5 at the start of the game. And that was one of the games where I got like a super good level 1 refresh. I think I refreshed at 1/6 with like all 8 climaxes. It was super good. But yes, you do still run into deck states. I run into, interestingly enough, I run into more times where I don't want to mill my deck compared to where I want to mill my deck. Maybe it might be like a 60-40. Not too big, but I do run into that problem a lot because these 2 cards like mill my deck, right? So I want the Back in Time for power pumps depending on the match, right? Because that's relevant. And then I want the Sengoku Batman because it gives me hand fixing and like mill 2 and stuff like that, right? Sometimes I have like level 1s in my hand, level 2s, level 3s, finishers, and stuff like that, right? Or like an Alfred in my hand, right? And then the only other like beater that I can, just play that like I don't need later on, right? Or like these 2 cards, the Sengoku Batman and Back in Time. Except they on play mandatory mill 2. And I'm just like, I do not want to mill my deck right now. So yeah, I feel like I run into those situations more over like, man, I really need to mill my deck. Because if you're proactive about having to mill your deck, you don't run into the problem as much. Because Railgun has the same thing. And I played that thing for like what, years at this point. As long as you're proactive about it, it's not a non-issue, but it's not as big of an issue as people make it out to be. You gotta also remember, like, I used to play Weiss before everybody got like rest itself brainstormers, and like milling is just super easy nowadays. So I played from the time where milling was not super easy, so you had to be proactive on like how you milled and when you milled. Wake up and get back to work. What? Is it Bushiroad's fault or is it Judge's fault or for not catching that incident? I feel like it's both their faults. For you talking about the shuffling, right? Whether like the face up shuffling that happened. I feel like it's Bushiroad's fault for being so lax with like tournament rulings, right? And rule calls and like game losses and stuff like that, right? It's Bushiroad's fault for not bringing it up to the judges, right? And it's also the judge's fault for like not paying attention well enough. Because if your job is to like actively judge in that call, right? And like the whole reason you're there, you're supposed to, your job description is to look out for stuff like, that's what active judging is, right? Like any mistakes, any like rule infractions, you're supposed to look for it and call it out, not just like, you know, watch it like you're watching on Twitch. That's not what you're there for. Judges do get compensated, yes, of course. That is in their job description. So I feel like they failed fulfilling that condition of the job. At the same time, me as a player also have an obligation to catch mistakes like that. So I am also partly at fault. I'm not saying, oh, like this shouldn't have happened because it's the judge's job to like catch that and like it's not my problem. No, it is also, I also take fault in not catching that as well. And I explained earlier why I didn't. The coin comment about forcing big swing and unknown triggers with regards to restanders. Okay. Wait, coin. Opponent crashes into your board, swinging big, right? Yeah. I did say that is one of the demerits of restanders. If your opponent's board is like completely empty and your opponent like quote unquote like outplays you or like plays against you, right? It is a demerit in the restander. But depending on the restander, like the level 3 climax combo, right? That gets it off anyways, right? Depending on their deck state, it might still be worth restanding, swinging for a 4 and a 5. Because you're not completely shut out. They just get like a higher chance to cancel because they get their money's worth, right? They take the risk of leaving an empty board, getting swung for higher, right? And I feel like that's a very fair trade. They take the risk, and if they cancel because you're swinging for 4s and 5s, then they get it. Or otherwise, that one attack could be lethal for them, 3 times in a row, right? And then I also have the option to like just not play this and then swing for X number of soul with like just regular level 3s. So even in that situation where my opponent plays against me, right? I still have the option to like control my soul, whether I want to swing for like 2s with like 1 soul beaters, right? 2-2, or like 3-3, depending on what my opponent's clock state is at. So I feel like the trade-off is very well worth it for the restanders. Negatives of restanders, yeah. Between runs. I used to, the barrel event, yeah, okay, yeah. This is, I feel like this is a trap. Yeah, they are talking about, wait, no, wrong picture, or wrong card. There you go. They're talking about, I used to run this, and I don't anymore. Yeah, this card is, I feel like it's a trap. Like I said earlier, there are a lot of situations where I just don't want to mill my deck, right? And then this card is a dead card in your hand until you use the effect. And then even when you use the effect, you're looking at like random 1 through 4 cards compared to like all the draws and discards that you do throughout the game. You could be like, what do you call it? You could be sculpting your hand otherwise, right? Compared to you just draw into one of these and then you hold it, right? A lot of the, I wouldn't say majority, but a non-insignificant portion of the game state, right? Where you have this card, you either 1, don't want to mill, or 2, you only want to mill with this card. Like, trying to fish for a specific card with this card is just, like, not a very good play. So I would run into a lot of situations where it's like, oh, I'm glad I had this card because I just really need to mill my deck. So that's nice, right? But I also ran into situations where, like, oh, I need playables. I need to just swing. Except I don't want to mill my deck, but this is the only card I can play in my hand that can potentially get me a card that can swing. So I feel like the demerits of this card is just like not, if this card had like a bonder, like an on-play discard, grab this card, I think is very well playable. But the fact that if you run this, because it's an event, you can only draw it, right? So the times you draw it, you kind of want to hold on to it for that like get out of jail free card when you really need to mill, right? But then like the opposite is also true. You hold on to this card and it's just dead card in a lot of situations. So like because of that, it's just it just makes your hand what do you call it, management just way too clunky. is why I don't run anymore. If it had an on-play discard bonder or even an on-play pay one bonder, I would run discard, yes. But as it is now, it's not worth it. Like I said, you just gotta be proactive in like your deck state and how much you mill. Like when you go into turn, you have to see like, all right, how much deck do I have now, right? How many cards do I need to mill this turn so that like I can refresh next turn, depending on how many climaxes. If you just refresh, you have like 20 something cards, right? And then you have all 8 climaxes. It's super good compression, right? Then like milling is a non-issue. You just mill, like you don't want to mill at all, right? You attack 3 times, hopefully you don't trigger, you cancel, and then the next turn, depending on how many climaxes you're out now, you also might not want to mill, right? And then around 20 is like the number where you finish attacking, your opponent attacks, and then the rest of the deck is very millable. You're gonna have like at least or like around 10-12 cards left, right? That's very millable on like one turn with like a brainstormer and a mill 2 or like a climax, someone will draw 2, discard 1, right? But if you start the turn and you have like 40 cards left in your deck somehow, right? And then you have like, I don't know, 6 climaxes left, chances are you need to mill a lot of cards this turn so that next turn you can also mill more cards and then refresh by then. But like I said, a lot of decks nowadays, like more modern decks, just gives you mills for free whenever, wherever, right? So a lot of people don't pay attention to that. They just mill on demand as necessary, and they never set up. That's why a lot of the decks you see me playing, where it just doesn't have, it just appears to not have a lot of mill, is because I feel like the trade-off I make in the deck is worth it. Like there was a Sword Art deck that I used with the Switch, right? That also didn't have a whole lot of mill, and people were like, "Why do you not run this 1/0 that like mills your cards?" But if you mill your deck proactively, it's a less of an issue. I feel like the presence of an early play healing board at 2 makes it easier for the opponent to have a board for you to front into with 3 standards rather than empty board. Oh no, you're talking about the barrel, right? Yeah. No. This is a different card. Yeah. It has the same art, but it's a completely different card. And then there's also 2 versions of the 1/0 event as well. There's 2 different arts, but the one of the versions shares artwork with this card. Yeah. Having a dominant board at level 2 kind of gives your opponent free real estate on like running their stuff in and give you no board. Like one of the opponents I played against did that against me. I believe it was which this one, yeah. Like I said, the match that was like really good. I wish it was streamed. I wish I recorded it. He did exactly that. I had like my board, right, and then this person knew what they were doing, right? They knew exactly what they were doing, right? And then they just left empty board next turn because I was like level 3 already. So they're like, oh, good luck with restand, basically, right? And like, yeah, that's what happened. Next turn, I just like swung for 3/3/3 because no restand. It's not worth it. Because we were both compressed, right? So pros and cons. There are always demerits, right? There are pros and cons to every finisher and whatnot. Like the best type of finisher is the ones that are like at the end of attack or something, or yeah, at the end of attack, burn X instead of like swing, like restand, right? And I don't think English has any of those. I think those are Japanese version has a lot of those effects, I believe. Okay. I want to say I caught up on like all the questions. God, I forget what else I was gonna say. I feel like I had more things I wanted to say. Give me a second here. Let me get a drink. Yeah, I guess we'll go back to like the whole data live thing. I feel like there's a lot of hate, maybe not hate, but a lot of contention going on about data live and whether or not people think data live should be, restricted, banned, or whatever, right? I feel like we need to give it some more time. I don't know how much time. At the same time, it's really hard to pull the trigger on something like that, right? Like especially with Bushiroad, like they just don't want to ban cards, like flat out, right? They just hate banning cards for English for whatever reason. I feel like the biggest reason is that like their upper echelon at the upper echelon that manages English Weiss Schwarz, right? Like, don't play the game, man. Like, honestly, like, let's be real. Like, the upper echelon, like, don't even know how the game works. They just like print cards and they just do the back end office work, and then you just got the grunts that like are Weiss players, you know, and they sometimes the upper echelon will ask the lower grunts like, hey, how does this work? Does this need to be banned? Do we need to like, you know, change the effect on this for English or something like that, right? And the upper echelon is just like they don't know. So because of that, they just don't want to ban it as much as possible. Like, look at Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan, during its prime, definitely should have been restricted. Like, in Japanese, it didn't need to because, like, you know, different metas, different all that, right? But in English, it definitely had, like, it was way overrepresented in, like, all the wins. Like, it always had Attack on Titan on top of it, right? Sword Art was a similar vein just because, but I feel like that had more to do way back then, like in 2013, 2014, 2015, right? I think that had more to do with like there not being enough sets in English. And Sword Art was just like the dominant deck for the longest time because it was the strongest. But by the time like Attack on Titan Season 2 was dominant, there were like plenty of sets that were in the English meta, right? But the problem with Attack on Titan was that it was just way too oppressive and it was way too free, right? Like the 1-0 Aaron, I think the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems, right, is that it comes with the bounce trigger. So you build this deck that denies on reverses by building up huge walls like 1-1s, 2-2s, or standby, etc., right? And Attack on Titan naturally has a counter by just like playing the deck because it comes with the wind trigger. So there's just like so many problems with this combo in the English meta. Not as much anymore, obviously, right? Because like if you're 8 standby and you get bounced like every now and then, it's not as nearly as bad as back then when you have to like hard play 1-1s or like 1-2 or 2-2s and stuff like that, right? Just to counter Attack on Titan. But back then was definitely a problem. Back then Attack on Titan definitely should have been hit, and I feel like we can potentially see more of that in Data Live. But the reason I say it might be too early is because there are a ton of sets at this point compared to, you know, back when Attack on Titan was. So there are builds, there are ways to play against, you know, Data Live and stuff like that. The Data Live like also counters Data Live in a sense. So I feel like it's a little too early to tell whether or not. Obviously in Japanese it was a different story, right? But in English it could be different. Who knows? Because the player base is very different between English and Japanese. Oh, what else is there? Okay. Alright, I think that just about wraps up everything. If anybody has no other questions, I'm gonna probably start wrapping it up. Yeah, my funnest matches were this match right here against Slime, and then this one right here. Cause at the start of the round, cause I was so done. I'm just like, I want to get out. I told them, alright, let's finish this in 5 rounds, or 5 turns, and we kind of lost count halfway through, but the match ended very quickly, and I believe the person was that they finished their turn 5 and then died afterwards. So it was a very quick game. That was very enjoyable, and a lot of things went well as well for both parties. I think they got like 2 Aaron combos or whatever, or no, I denied a couple of their Aaron combos, and I drew into a lot of good things. We both canceled a lot. Don't really remember much about this person. He just like ate all the damage. This one, it was a pretty fair match. Yeah, this would have been good getting streamed. This one, I believe they ate a ton of damage as well, and they didn't get a whole lot of their stuff off. I don't remember too much about this fight. This one, I believe Data Live was winning early on, and then later on they just ate all the damage, and I took the win. But yeah, if you guys want to see the deck list, this is the deck list. And then this is technically the pairings. Like all the... Yeah. It doesn't show you the rankings for whatever reason. It just shows you the pairings. But yeah. And then I think there are ways to see other people's deck lists. I'm not sure exactly how. But yeah, there are other ways to see what if you guys want to see what the deck list of the people I played against. But yeah, like I said, this is the last online tournament, so don't expect to see me again for this. Hopefully, I'm not holding my breath honestly because it needs to open up worldwide for COVID, for everything to, for like regionals and stuff like that, and worlds tournaments to happen again, right? And while America is getting ready to open up again, if you look at the map, a lot of other countries are like still in like state of emergencies and stuff like that. So I don't have hopes by the end of this year. I don't think at the end of this year we're gonna have like worlds and nationals again, just because of all the other countries. So yeah, it's online tournaments just nowhere near as fun. What do you think about the concept of BSFO in general? I feel like you need to ask a little more detailed than in general. Like, what do I think about the online aspect of it? I feel like it's good that they're doing it because otherwise it's just not happening, right? So I feel like it's good that it's being run. I think, and some people enjoy it, right? Uh, some people enjoy the online play. Some people like playing online webcam wise, right? Also, some people that live in the middle of nowhere, right, suddenly have access to play against like hundreds of other people immediately, right? And then once we get back to physical playing again, there's gonna be less demand, and they're gonna have just like less players, less incentive, less players with incentive to play online webcam, right? So I think it's overall good. I just personally don't like the whole online play thing. So I feel like there should be more of it, right? I'm just not gonna participate. I love it when June does tournament breakdowns. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's just if you break it down uh to its base form, that's all it is, right? Whoever does more damage wins. Whoever takes more damage loses. But yeah, I hope one thing I really didn't like. I want to get it out there. Like, why Weiss be the only one that doesn't have pricing? Like, yeah, they got this, but like, it's not this. Why didn't we get any promos? Are we even gonna get certificates? My assumption is no, we're not even gonna get certificates. So it's just like, this is just off the shelf retail product. It's just like, I guess you get quote unquote like money value out of it. Like, I got third place, so I got a supply set. But it's not, especially with the way English collectors market right now is, right? If this was like a stamped promo, that would have been so much worth way more than like this, right? Even like, what's first place get? First place, one box, a trial deck, and a supply set. Yeah, that's like maybe what, $150, up to $200 depending on where you live, right? Compared to like a winner's promo would be like starting $200, right? So if they're gonna continue this, I really hope the pricing is they don't skimp on pricing. I feel like they skimped on pricing because it's an online tournament, which I do not agree with. You should have the pricing if you're gonna have this at all, right? Because otherwise, what's the point of having this like whole official thing? Like, what, this for this like $100-$200 pricing? Like, I believe we've had like private tournaments, like invitationals or whatever, with like better pricing than this. I believe, if correct me if I'm wrong. So like the official tournament putting out lesser pricing than these like private fan made tournaments is kind of disgusting. Sorry for the like strong language, but yeah, Bushiroad needs to. They were doing so well too with like all the recent tournaments, but for this online one, they feel like nope, no pricing. Okay. I believe it's been like an hour and a half now, so alright, I'm gonna go and eat some food with some friends, and then hopefully I see you guys. If you guys wanna, I don't know, I've been thinking about making some content on YouTube, right? But I'm not sure on what. I don't know what people want to see. Like, that's why I tried this stream, to see what people wanted to see and what they want to hear, if anything, right? So talked about Batman and all that stuff, why I play Batman. Just also to ask like what people want to see me to stream, if anything, right? Because the only things I have in my head right now are like showing off my Shioko collection, or like my Universal promos collection on the Japanese side. But I don't know if people even care if I stream that. Like, yeah. And then as far as like content, like I don't want to go into like too much in-depth content because honestly, like to be fair, I've been out of touch in the Japanese meta for like 2+ years now. Like after I won with Rogan the second year, I've been like very out of like Japanese meta because I was focusing too much on the English meta, right? And then for the English meta, after JKTCG closed down, I just kind of like zoned out completely. Like I don't know what the new Madoka set does, right? The anime one. I don't know what Bofuri does. Like I know like a handful of cards that people mention it because they're like mentionable cards, right? But other than that, I don't even know what those sets do. So yeah, I would have to like go back up to speed on catching up into the meta and all that stuff. So Final Fantasy 14 content, yeah. See, like Final Fantasy 14, like I would be willing to stream, but I don't know if people would be like wanting to watch. So if you guys, I guess I could show off my Miku collection. I have like a ton of Miku stuff, but most of it is non-TCG. So yeah, if you guys want to see certain things, like give me a tweet, tag me on a tweet, or like comment on the VOD on this video. I guess if you guys are watching it not live, just comment on the video. Let me know if you guys want me to stream particular things, and then I guess I'll stream it. I would probably prefer like a stream over like a video, like an edited video, because I don't want to edit. I don't want to learn how to edit, man. So I'll probably just do everything live. It's a lot easier too. So yeah, if you guys want to see something, leave comments if you're watching this as a VOD, or tweet at me, whichever. And then I'll look over what's feasible. If you guys if there's enough demand for like an actual like deep dive on like meta and all that stuff, like I'll give it heavy consideration, even though I don't really want to do it if possible. But if people really want to see it, I'll do it. So just give me streaming ideas. I don't even know what the BTS sauce from McDonald's is. What do you mean rated? What's a BTS sauce? I don't have a SpongeBob collection. I have like 2 coin purses and this plushie. Oh, I have a Lego SpongeBob as well, because my cousin gave it to me. Alright, let's not drag this on too long. Where's a good thing to end it in here? No, I am not a BTS stan. I know what that BTS is. There's a BTS sauce for Mickey D's. Is that the same BTS? Fake fan. You're right. I don't even know. I just know BTS and they're a bunch of guys or something like that. That's all I know about it. Alright. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you next time. Whenever, wherever, if, when. I have no idea when I'll stream again. Okay. Good night. No, I'm not doing a Batman cosplay stream. What the heck? Oh yeah, I'm down to do a collab with other people, or like interviews or whatever. I think I've gotten interview offers before. Yeah. So yeah, I don't really have a signed collection, but yeah, like I said, comments, chats, whatever. Give me suggestions. I'll give all the considerations. If you want to collab or whatever, if you have another channel operator here somewhere, just let me know.